Of course, you have trouble. That is normal. And this kind of trouble, of course, we will have.
Can you guarantee the safety of fans who just want to come here and watch football?
I think yes, if they also be a little bit cautious.
The German authorities have been planning this operation for the past 4 years. Now they're about to face a massive test. They say they're hoping for the best, but ready for anything. Martin Geisler, ITV News, Düsseldorf.
So what's the advice for the 100,000 English fans expected to travel to the World Cup? Well, the Foreign Office today launched a campaign aimed at helping supporters to have a trouble-free tournament.
Ministers said it was up to the German authorities to take action against troublemakers.
There's no place for any of this stuff in football. We've fortunately been able to move away from it a great deal in this country, and we've got to stay on that course, and we will be doing everything we can to encourage others to stay on a course of absolute severity with hooliganism and violence, just as we would.
Many of them lost years of their lives, put behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. But at least they could be confident of claiming compensation for the injustice.
Until today, the Home Secretary has announced controversial plans to slash the amount of money paid out to innocent people wrongly convicted. Our UK editor John Ray on what some are calling an insult to the innocent.
What price? Justice, or rather the miscarriage of justice. After long years behind bars for bombing someone else committed for the Birmingham 6, that price came close to £1 million. For the Guildford 4, around £500,000. But consider the case of Angela Cannings, cleared on appeal of killing her children. Under the changes announced today, those like her would be entitled to not a penny.
As I said outside the Old Bailey in 1991 on the day I was released, justice, they haven't got the intelligence nor the honesty to spell the word, never mind dispense it.
In their defence, the government says the present system is too often abused. So there's a city trader wrongly convicted, now claiming compensation of £11 million. In future, there'll be a cap of 500,000. Then there's the paedophile, cleared on just one of a series of charges, but awarded £10,000. In future, other convictions will count against the claimant. But here's the really controversial part. The new rules mean anyone cleared on a first appeal will get nothing. Someone like Angela Cannings. She spent 20 months in prison before her lawyers could prove her innocence.
I'm somewhat dismayed. It does seem to me that there are a number of things which are being proposed which are fundamentally wrong.
The savings will be small, but they'll be redirected to the victims of crime after ministers were attacked for the size of payments to the survivors of 7/7.
Someone who's had a conviction quashed gets on average something like £250,000 in compensation. Victims of crimes, average payout is £5,000.
In the long run, the government's talking about cutting the compensation bill further with a new not proven verdict for those cleared on a technicality. In the short run, though, it risks being accused of adding insult to the injury of the innocents. John Ray, ITV News.
Now there's trouble at the top in Washington, something of a crisis perhaps in the West Wing, with two more top advisers deserting President Bush.
This afternoon, the White House spokesman Scott McLennan announced he was resigning. Shortly afterwards, it emerged that Karl Rove, one of George Bush's most influential advisers, was also moving jobs.
Let's go live to Washington and our correspondent Robert Moore. Robert.
Well, Mark, 18 months after re-election, you get the sense this White House is close to physical and political exhaustion. What we're seeing today is a minor reshuffle, a moving of the deck chairs. We've got Scott McLellan, the White House spokesman, out of his job. We've got a move for Karl Rove, the man often referred to as President Bush's brain. But the real story is this, that the big beasts of Washington, Donald Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice, Dick Cheney, they're all staying put. There's no change in policy, there's no change in Iraq strategy. So if this is an attempt by the White House to reinvent itself, I think you can conclude it's going to fail.
But why now? What does this tell us about the Bush White House?
Well, as Americans might put it, Mark, it shows the White House is running out of gas in the tank. It's showing they haven't got many more ideas. This president's approval ratings are now down to 34, 35%. What does he do about it? Well, he moves his spokesman on. He shoots the messenger. I think that is very likely to under-impress most Americans.
All right, Robert Moore, thank you very much indeed.
Essex police are to review the case of the man found dead at the home of TV presenter Michael Barrymore.
Detectives say they may interview Mr Barrymore again about the death of Stuart Lubbock, whose body was found in the comedian's swimming pool following a party in 2001. Despite a lengthy investigation, no one was ever charged over Mr Lubbock's death.
The car giant Peugeot was warned there's trouble ahead today if it goes ahead and closes its factory in Coventry. Unions are threatening industrial action and French workers may also get involved.
But that's little consolation for the 2,300 employees facing redundancy.
Our correspondent Rohit Katra is in Coventry tonight. Rohit.
Well, very many workers will support industrial action, very few believe it will achieve anything. This is a workforce that say they've been given many false promises and they're wary of false hope. There was hope today from the leaders of the city of Coventry who said every one of those fired workers will be able to find an available job by the middle of next year. They say this is a thriving and energetic community, but after losing not one but 3 car factories in the last few months, this place feels like a community in crisis.
That's what I like the minute you said.
Once again, thousands of car workers with mouths to feed are wondering how they'll do it. Twice now, Daniel Sharples has been a victim of our shrinking car industry. Laid off from Land Rover 7 years ago, and now at Peugeot.
When I was younger, I didn't worry about what jobs I had because I had no family or anything, no responsibilities. So I just used to go from one job to the next, and now I'm older, I wanted a stable job. And I thought this was it.
It took a bit of time to sink in. It still is now, wondering what we're going to do. Without, you know, there's money coming in, otherwise we can't survive.
Workers turned up today not to build cars, but to listen to their unions, who say industrial action is a possibility. But what about the longer term? On another grim day in Coventry, the city's leaders said the jobs are there to prevent this one-time motorcar boomtown from turning to a ghost town.
There's jobs in consumer goods, there's jobs in service industries. There is no shortage of jobs for people with the right skills.
But it was for decades car workers that kept the city going. Now they're told they're too expensive. Peugeot blamed the high cost of making cars like these for closing the plant. They claim that in France it costs £287 less to build this car, because in Britain, workers earn more money and energy costs are higher too. And crucially, 70% of the components that go into this car come from abroad. And when the car is built, 70% of those are exported back to Europe. And if an efficient, profitable plant like this cannot compete, what future for the remains of our motor industry? Rohit Katra, ITV News, Coventry.
Still to come on the evening news.
Nuclear or not, as the government ponders how to meet climate change targets, we get our eco-family to investigate.
I'm on a day trip with the Merrills, our family who've been living the green life. They'll be finding out if it's possible to power the country without adding to global warming.
But first, the Queen held a special birthday party today with 99 guests, all with one thing in common. They, like her, were born on the same day, 80 years ago this Friday. A celebration lunch at Buckingham Palace provided an unforgettable way to mark the milestone and share their memories from the last 8 decades. Betty Kay from Yorkshire was one of the lucky guests. Our royal correspondent Romilly Weeks was there too and joins us from the palace tonight. Romilly.
The Queen called them her exact twins, 99 people who will all be 80 on Friday, invited to lunch here at the palace. There'll be lots of events this week to mark the Queen's birthday, but this was the celebration for her generation. Are you a birthday girl is the Queen's first question. 79-year-old Betty Kay certainly is. She was born on the same day as the Queen, and this was the moment she actually got to celebrate with her. They were born in the Charleston years. Chaplin was on at the cinema and Britain was gripped by the general strike. April the 21st, 1926, the Queen and Betty's birthday.
When they used to say, I talk about birthdays, I used to say, well, you weren't born on the same day as the Queen. I was, you know, I mean, like kiddies do.
In the war, The Princess Elizabeth was a second subaltern in the ATS.
Like so many other women in her generation, Betty also joined up.
Now, I was in London during the bombing, odd times. I remember going down Hammersmith Palais and dodging them kind of thing and sleeping down in the shelters.
VE Day, the royal family on the balcony at Buckingham Palace. Somewhere in this crowd was Betty waving back.
And we'd just come off night duty, got your pyjamas on, got into bed when it came over the tannoy that the war had finished. So you're on with your battle dress, you're out through the gates, you catch the first lift you could, and we're up in London. I have never seen so many people in my life as what there was around there.
The coronation was the next big national celebration.
A neighbour of mine, about 3 doors away from me, had a television. Well, I think she had all the street in there. And then, of course, the next day we had a coronation party.
It's a shared history from a unique perspective. I caught up with Betty after the lunch. She was delighted to have been called one of the Queen's twins.
It's a great honour to be born on the same day as the Queen. And it's a great honour to have visited her home. It really is, definitely.
So after her day at the palace, would Betty have been tempted to swap places?
No, I don't think. I wouldn't swap her into her shoes now. I admire her and that's it.
Betty Kay's memories, and we'll have someone else's memories of Her Majesty later in the programme in our series The Queen and I. It's one of the government's biggest decisions whether to build a new generation of nuclear power stations to help cut the amount of carbon dioxide the UK produces, but it's a controversial proposal.
Who better to investigate the debate for and against nuclear power than our eco-family, the Merrills. As part of a unique experiment, we've given their way of life an eco-makeover, installing a wind turbine and solar tiles, swapping their petrol-powered car for an energy-efficient hybrid.
Our correspondent Helen Callaghan joined them on a fact-finding visit to see if nuclear should be part of living the green life.
They're controversial but climate-friendly and supply a fifth of our electricity. Yet nuclear power stations like Hinkley Point, where we've come on a day trip, are due to be shut down over the next 20 years. The Merrills have doubts about safety.
What about when it goes catastrophically wrong, like it did in Chernobyl?
The design of our power plants in the UK are totally different. The regime that we're operated under is totally different. A catastrophic failure, as in Chernobyl, could not happen on any of our plants in the UK.
What really concerns anti-nuclear campaigners isn't just what happens inside a reactor like Hinkley, it's what happens to the radioactive waste that comes out. For groups like Friends of the Earth, the prospect of transporting nuclear waste to Sellafield for reprocessing and then storing what's left over for future generations just isn't acceptable.
Everyone we've seen today has told us that nuclear power is going to be a way forward and we should keep with it.
After 50 years of making huge amounts of radioactive waste in the UK, we still don't know what to do with it. And that stuff is dangerous for literally tens of thousands of years. So long after we're gone, you know, people living in here in the future are going to be having to think about what to do with that stuff.
So, what's the Merrills' verdict?
So we are going to need a backup power station. It's just the bottom line, and I reckon it should be nuclear because nuclear is far more cleaner than coal and all the other ones.
Most emissions are caused by households like our own and the fact that we use cars on a daily basis. Therefore, building more nuclear power stations isn't the answer and it isn't the solution to climate change.
The Merrills are split on whether the nuclear industry's dying or about to be reborn. The government will give its verdict this year. Helen Callaghan, ITV News, Hinkley Point Nuclear Power Station.
Well, the Merrills Green Life Challenge is part of our 3 Degrees from Disaster series. Log on to read our science editor Lawrence McGinty's latest weblog as he travels around the world in search of evidence of climate change.
You'll find details of how to win a hybrid car there, and for climate change stories direct to your mobile, text ITV News to 86188.
Reminder now of tonight's main news. ITV News has revealed how violent Polish football hooligans plan to target English and German fans at this summer's World Cup.
The government has announced controversial plans to limit the amount of compensation paid out to innocent people who've been wrongfully imprisoned.
And President Bush is under pressure tonight after his spokesman Scott McLennan and another key aide left their jobs.
The top stories in the West Country: multi-million-pound regeneration plans unveiled for Taunton. Somerset County Cricket Club is to invest £60 million in an international stadium by 2009. And an inquest has heard how 4 people flew into terrible weather conditions minutes before crashing in a helicopter.
Finally, to mark her 80th birthday this week, we're sharing some of your memories of the day you met the Queen.
Yes, we like these. Today, Len Osmond captures the colour and excitement of Her Majesty's visit to St Albans Abbey in 1982. Filmmaking had been Len's passion for years, and he was determined to come up with something special.
I wanted to make a film of a very, very exciting day because the crowds really had atmosphere and it was really exciting. And I really wanted to make a film that people would say, I remember that day. I got down to St Albans. The marketplace was packed. There was all sorts of events going on. There was majorettes. And the shops were beautifully decorated. This really struck me as a really day of gaiety and jubilation. I saw this official-looking gentleman. I asked him, and he said, "Oh, you won't get the Queen up here." He said, "You no good being in the marketplace. You want to get down to the Abbey." When the Queen did arrive, I was able to have her facing me, which was really excellent. The event of the day on the in the grounds of the Abbey, the Morris dancing, it all portrayed England as the world likes to see England. Of course, the family have always enjoyed it, neighbours, and I still do take great delight in showing some of the work that I've done, and of course, like everybody else, I like being proud of what I've done and get all the glory that goes with it, you know.
Very nice. Well done, Len. And we'll be marking the Queen's birthday on Friday, live from Windsor, and then later that night, ITV has a unique celebration of 80 years.
Yes, Mary Nightingale's been given special access to previously unseen archive footage, the Queen's life captured in pictures. Join her for an intimate insight into an extraordinary life. That's The Girl Who Would Be Queen, this Friday on ITV1 at 8:30. And that is tonight's evening news.
Later at 10:30.
Reptiles like this one are used to being called nasty names, but will being compared to a chameleon damage David Cameron, or will the insults backfire on Tony Blair?
And what lies ahead for Thierry Henry on an historic night for Arsenal, the club's last European game at Highbury.
Join Mark for that, but for now, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by Powergen.
Hello, good evening. We certainly saw some rain across the country today, and we catch a few more showers tomorrow. Then slowly but surely things start drying off as we head towards the weekend. But I'm afraid it's back to square one in Scotland with more rain on the way later on Saturday. At least in compensation, temperatures start getting warmer as we head towards the weekend. We'll certainly notice the difference in the north of England tomorrow. back to tonight, and it's a case of cloudy, dull, damp weather for the southern half of the country. Further north, clear slots, and leading to touches of frost. We do see the risk of frost, especially so in the northeast. So into tomorrow morning, we do so on a cloudy note. Again, a few showers around, 1 or 2 fairly hefty ones in Scotland, for example. And later on, we see even more wet and windy weather getting into the southwest. Now, temperatures are pegged back in the north. 8 is only 46 in Fahrenheit. At least in the Midlands, for instance, we're up to 30 and a much healthier 55 in Fahrenheit, and a lot pleasanter than today. Quick look ahead now to Friday's weather, and again with some dull and fairly damp weather in the southern half of the country. A much better day in the offing for the north. 13, 55 in Fahrenheit, dry, and we even managed some sunshine around. So let's take a look ahead further now into the weekend. Saturday itself, it's looking good, it's looking dry, we've got some pleasant sunshine. Look at this, 17, actually 63 degrees in Fahrenheit in the south. But it is only half the story, as always with the weather. More rain getting into Scotland and Northern Ireland, and that's later on Saturday, so be warned about that. A bit of a mishmash, and all in all, that's all from me.
Positive energy from Powergen.